As the regular season of Nike EYBL comes to a close, the Elliott Cadeau reclassification watch enters the next stage.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, it's Tuesday, May 30th, 2023. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shade, and I want to welcome you all in. If it's your first time ever joining us, welcome. We are so glad that you're here. For you everydayers, welcome back as always. Coming up on the show today, we might have another group of Tar Heels on the cusp of a national championship. That's just what Tar Heels keep doing. We've got updates on where the baseball team is headed. Carolina women's basketball team picked up another five-star coach. Banghart is rolling. But before we get to all of that, I need to update you on kind of where things are at with Elliott Cadeau's timeline, at least in terms of what he's playing and doing. I mentioned off the top, the Nike EYBL regular season is over. That combination of letters and words might mean nothing to you. It might mean a lot to you, but let me just help make sure we're all on the same page so you know where we're coming from. You've maybe heard of the EYBL. Basically, it's just Nike's AAU summer circuit. There are 4 sessions that happen through the spring up through now, and then we will have Peach Jam coming up in July, which Peach Jam is the culmination of those 4 sessions. Peach Jam's like the championships, the finals. Taking place a little bit earlier this year than it normally does, just because of the change in some of the recruiting calendar stuff. But the 4 sessions that have gone on so far have been Atlanta, Phoenix, Dallas, and then they were just in Memphis for the last session this weekend. And again, they'll move on to Peach Jam. That's going to take place July 3 through 9. Here's why I bring all this up and why it matters with Elliott Cadeau. Because this, for me, for a while, has been the first natural break or point at which, if Elliott is indeed going to reclassify and come to North Carolina for this upcoming season, this would be one of the natural points to do it. Either immediately following the last session of the regular season of EYBL, basically at some point in June, or after Peach Jam. And so we've got a little over a month until Peach Jam happens. And so this could be a natural moment for Elliott to reclassify if he's going to do so. So the question where I'm at right now, and where perhaps you're at, because you're like, listen, if he's going to do it, he needs to do it. I think a lot of people are starting to feel that way. And I would tend to agree with that, right? Like, the team needs to work at building some cohesion. It's going to be pretty soon here when Simeon, Wilcher, and Zayden move in, those kind of things. And so if Cadeau is going to reclassify, will it be sometime in June before Peach Jam, or will he wait till after? Or will we just never hear anything and he goes on to his senior year of high school down at Link Academy in Branson, Missouri? So that's where I'm at wondering. So my thought is, if he's going to do it in this open period, it would be within a week or so, for a couple reasons. Number one, if you're going to do it now, why drag it out after these regular 4 sessions of EYBL are over? The other thing is, the sooner you can do it, the sooner it lets your AAU team figure out what they're going to do for Peach Jam moving forward, because clearly Elliott is a massive part of that, which also then brings the question, for the sake of your team, do you need to stick around and play Peach Jam first? I think a lot of that probably depends on the conversations with Coach Davis and the coaching staff. Like, hey, no, we'll be good. You wait and then come in July after Peach Jam's over. Or maybe Coach Davis is saying, hey, if you want to do it, we want you to go ahead and do it, right? So those things are all up in the air. But I'm just telling you, if this is going to happen, this is kind of one of those open windows to watch for an announcement. I'm not telling you anything's happening. I'm not saying anything's imminent. I'm just saying this would be a logical window in which to make the announcement. Now, part of this, let's look at Elliott Cadeau's numbers from these 4 sessions of EYBL. He finishes the whole thing with an absolutely silly stat line. You ready for this? 29 points. That was his summer high. 15 assists. That ties his summer high for a single game. 3 rebounds and a steal. And so you love seeing Elliott finish that off, if it is indeed his last ever EYBL game, in massive fashion. So his team, New Heights Lightning, in total across those 4 sessions of EYBL, played 17 games. They went 13-4. They are second place in Pool B there. He averaged across those 17 games 15.7 points, 4.8 rebounds, 9.3 assists, which led all of EYBL to just 2.3 turnovers. For most of these sessions, he's been over 10 assists per game. He's just had a stretch where he's been under several times. So again, Elliott had 9.2 assists per game, almost averaged a double-double with points and assists. I mean, that's just silly. One other player had 6.2 assists per game. 3 were in the 5s, and everyone else was under that in terms of assists. Cadeau also averaged 1.8 steals per game. That was tied for 10th in EYBL. And all of this he did while shooting 50% from the field, averaging 35.4% from 3, and 87.9 from the free throw line. That is something. That'll go right there with what RJ Davis is doing. Had a triple-double one game this summer, 23, 10, and 10 points, rebounds, and assists, And so just ridiculous stuff he's been doing this summer. Had double-figure assists in 10 of the 17 games. I mean, it's just wacky. So we will keep our eyes on this, figure out what's going to happen, and then we will go from there. Got some baseball updates for you. Want to let you know what's happening with the team, where they'll be headed, who they'll be playing, schedule, all that good stuff, and some bad news that we got along with it. All of that coming up. But first, I need to tell you that this episode is brought to you by Built Bar. Are you looking for a delicious snack, but you don't want all the sugar and calories? Then you need to get the best tasting protein bar ever. Perhaps you're like me. You want that great taste, but you don't want to compromise on having a healthy choice. Then I got just the thing for you, Built Bars and Puffs. They're so healthy and they're amazing. Now, why so? Well, for starters, they're covered in 100% real dark chocolate. They also come in amazing flavors like churro or peanut butter brownie. And all the while, I don't know how Built pulls this off, but even while they taste good, they've got these awesome macros. Just 130 calories, only 4 grams of sugar, and yet 17 grams of protein. Now you don't have to sit around waiting for a box to come from Built.com with your order in it. You can just head down to Walmart, get you a little box, go to Sam's Club, get you a bulk box, variety pack, whatever you need to do. Go check it out. Get you some Built Bars or Puffs, a proud sponsor of the Locked On Network. I want to thank you all again for making Locked On Tar Heels your first listener watch of the day, especially you everydayers who are with us always. You know everything we've been tracking, and so you're jumping right on in. If you're not an everydayer, go back a couple weeks, catch up with us, find out the kind of things we talk about, and come become an everydayer where this is part of your everyday routine. Just, 30 minutes a day. That's all it is. Speaking of which, I want to say a little shout out to Charles. We had a great conversation back and forth on Twitter yesterday. And Charles, I just wanted to say a word of thanks to you, who's an everydayer, for reaching out and having that conversation with me. I really appreciate it. Okay, let's get to baseball. Yesterday on Memorial Day, the baseball regionals were announced. We already knew that the Tar Heels would not be hosting, but the prevailing thought is that they would be a number 2 seed in one of those 16 regionals. Surprise, surprise, we found out a lot of things that we didn't think would happen. The prevailing thought that Carolina would be either maybe in the Nashville bracket, Vanderbilt's, maybe in Coastal Carolina's bracket. No, all of that was wrong. They are in the Terra Haute bracket, which is where the Indiana State Sycamores are located. So Indiana State, let's call them the Fightin' Larry Birds, are the number 1 seed in Carolina's regional, the national number 14 seed. And then came the other surprise. The Tar Heels are not the number 2 seed. That is the Iowa Hawkeyes, Carolina 3, and then Wright State is 4th. And so you're looking at that, the schedule for how it will play out. Games will take place, as we said yesterday, Friday through Monday, but now we have a better idea of the schedule. Carolina and Iowa will play Friday night on ACC Network. That's great, at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So go ahead and mark your calendar for that. Earlier in the day will be the other matchup, Indiana State versus Wright State. That's going to be at 1 Eastern on ESPN+. So if you want to check out the possible opponents for game 2, go watch that game on Friday. Saturday, then, obviously, Carolina will either play Indiana State or Wright State. Remember, it is a double elimination regional. The losers of the 2 games are going to play at noon. Obviously, that's an elimination game because they will have lost 2. And then the winners will play at 6 p.m. Eastern. And then moving on to Sunday, there will be 1 team eliminated, 1 team that's 2-0, and 2 teams 1-1. Those 2 1-1 teams will play in yet another elimination game. That'll be at noon on Sunday. And then Sunday at 6, the final undefeated team will play that team that's come out of the elimination bracket at 6. That's a potential championship game. If the undefeated team wins, it's over. If the undefeated team loses that game, then the certain championship of the regional will be on Monday at a time TBD. And so basically it's that 7 o'clock game Friday, and then either 12 or 6 Saturday and Sunday. So Carolina needs to go and take care of business there. 3 seed, weren't really expecting that. How have these teams fared against other teams in the field? Because you probably don't know much about Indiana State or Iowa or Wright State. Carolina has played the most games of this 4-team field against other NCAA tournament teams. They've played 30 games. They're 12-18 in those games, a 400 or a 40% winning percentage. Iowa has played the next most games, 14. They're 6-8. Wright State is 3-8 in their 11 games, and Indiana State is 3-9 in their 12 games. So Iowa has the best winning percentage, but has played fewer than half of Carolina's games against the NCAA tournament field. Carolina, remember, I said has played 30. Those other 3 teams combined have played 37. So Carolina has the most experience against the rest of the NCAA tournament field, and you expect that to come in handy. Now, here's the thing: as I look at these 3 other teams, they don't, in general, scare me when I look at who they are and what they do. But as we said on yesterday's show, Carolina really needs to work at coming from the winners bracket to help offset what's been kind of a suspect pitching staff this year. And so what you really want to do is win that first game against Iowa and then win on Saturday. And then you're 2-0 and maybe only have to play 1 more game, while coming out of that elimination bracket is obviously much more difficult. And you got to turn around and play Friday at 7 and then again at noon on Saturday. You don't want to do that. All the bigger problem, though, is that Carolina on Friday night is going to be probably facing, I guess I should say, we don't know for certain, but they're going to be facing Iowa's ace, Brody Brecht. And homie is a probable 2024 first rounder. He's got a fastball that hits triple digits. His slider is dirty, nasty, unfair slider. And so Tar Heels got their work cut out for them at the plate, but I mean, that's why you go out and play the game. And so we will see what happens. By the way, they pair these 2 regionals. They pair up the regionals, and obviously the winners face off then in the super regional. So the regional Carolina's regional is paired with is the Fayetteville regional. Arkansas is the number 3 national seed. The other 3 teams there are TCU, Arizona, and Santa Clara. And I probably don't have to remind you, but who did Carolina host and lose to in last year's super regional? That's right, those same Razorbacks. And both games, it felt like just Carolina lost and got swept out of that and couldn't make it to the College World Series. So an opportunity for some possible revenge down in Fayetteville. Here's the big bummer. Whatever happens, it's going to have to be without Vance Honeycutt. Coach Forbes went ahead on Monday and confirmed no Vance for this regional. That's no good, but what I like about him going ahead and saying that, I know it gives the information to the opponents, but for Carolina, it lets you philosophically just steel your mind and get ready to go for what you got to do. And so I like to see that side of it. All right. So there's baseball. We'll obviously talk more about that as we get towards the weekend. I promised you some news from women's basketball. Great news. Coach Banghart just keeps slamming it in the recruiting game, on the recruiting trail, picking up Blanca Thomas in number 10 in the class of 2024. You know, if you follow women's basketball, that Carolina needed some height in a big way last season. It was rebounding by committee, and yet they were 11th in the conference in rebounding. Well, a 6'5" post is certainly going to help that endeavor, and that's exactly what Thomas is. Plays at Charlotte Catholic High School. Obviously has one more year as part of the class of 2024, so she is a rising senior. And Carolina, I mean, even this upcoming season has 6'5" Sierra Toomey coming in, who will also help. And so Carolina is working to add to the front court to really solidify what that athletic and highly capable backcourt and wings can do for Coach Banghart's team. So Blanca Thomas comes in. She averaged 18.3 points, 13.6 rebounds. That's incredible. Oh, by the way, that was as a freshman. So yeah, that's not what she did last year. That's 2 years ago as a freshman. So this young lady is special, and excited to see how she'll continue to grow and evolve her game ahead of her senior season and then ahead of coming to North Carolina. So great things. I always love to get great news like this in the off season, and congrats to Coach Banghart as she continues to build this program in a massive way. Well, we just had some women's national champions in tennis, both the team and doubles. We might have some guys, some men, not tennis players, but on the golf team on the cusp of their own team national championship. I'll have that news for you in just a second. Okay, you might be aware that the golf national championship rounds have been going on over the past several days. It started Friday, and just like a golf major, if you keep tabs on golf, you know, they play like Thursday to Sunday, basically. Same thing, Friday to Monday in this case, with it Monday being Memorial Day. 18 holes a day, so one round of golf for a total of 72 holes. So what happens is, after those first 3 rounds, they cut it down to 15 teams from 30. And then after the 4th round, they go ahead and claim or crown the individual national champion. We'll talk about that in a little bit. It's not Carolina, or I would already be talking about it. But then after the 4th round, after Monday's round, they cut that 15 down to 8. And so basically what you've been doing is, as a team, just trying to accumulate the lowest total that you can over those 4 days and 20 total rounds. You know, you have 5 guys playing and 4 rounds. That's 20 rounds. North Carolina shot a -7 as a team on Monday, and that means that they finish stroke play number 1. Yeah, the Tar Heels shot 273 on Monday, the lowest ever round for a Tar Heel quintet in an NCAA championship setting. Huh. And their 4-day total of 1,114 strokes broke Carolina's previous low for a 72-hole total at an NCAA championships that they set last year. And they broke that by 20 strokes. I mean, that is not just like eking out a new record. That is blowing it up. And so, as I said, the team is good enough to have earned the top seed entering match play quarterfinals on Tuesday. They were the number 2 team in the nation coming into this. Vandy was number 1, but they're out. They did not make this top 8. So Carolina is not only the number 1 seed in terms of what's actually happened, but they came in to this as the highest rated team remaining. Now, after day 1, Carolina was 4th. After day 2, 3rd. After day 3, 4th. And so moving up in a big way on Sunday. Now, here's the problem, though. Carolina has put themselves in that position, but it's not just to maintain it now. The strokes do not matter. Numbers of strokes gone. That just, the stroke play served to help eliminate teams over the first 4 days, and then also to help determine the order of seeding for match play. And so that's good that Carolina got number 1. And in fact, of those final 8 teams, the ACC is really well represented. In fact, the ACC makes up exactly half of the final 8 teams. Carolina is joined by Georgia Tech, Florida State, and Virginia. In fact, here's all of these remaining 8 seeds. Carolina number 1, Florida 2, Illinois 3, Pepperdine, the Waves, are 4, Georgia Tech 5, Florida State 6, Virginia 7. Rounding out things is Arizona State, the 8 seed. So the good news for Carolina is that the benefit of being the number 1 seed is that you get the number 8 seed, which is those Arizona State Sun Devils, who actually finished tied for 8th with Stanford, but beat out the Cardinal in a 2-hole playoff. So here's the thing, though. Arizona State came into this whole thing 4th in the nation. And so it's like, yeah, they finished 8th in how they're playing. Maybe it's the course. I don't know. But that's what they did. So we'll have to see what happens, because Arizona State is nothing to sneeze at. The Tar Heels are going to have to keep bringing it, just like they've done for the last 4 days. Cool thing is, this is the 3rd straight season the Tar Heels have advanced to the match play rounds. In fact, only 2 other active teams have that same 3-year stretch going. That's Pepperdine along with Arizona State. So again, Carolina has a lot of work on their hands. Last year, they were the 3 seed entering match play. They lost to 6 seed Pepperdine in the quarterfinals. And in 2021, they were the 8 seed and lost to number 1 seed Arizona State. They just keep popping up. It's so annoying. So the schedule for the rest of how this will go, all of it's on the Golf Channel if you want to watch. But Tuesday will be both the quarterfinals and semifinals. So Carolina, Arizona State at noon Eastern in the quarterfinals. The 4 winners of those quarterfinal matches will play in the semifinals at 5 o'clock. Also today, Tuesday. And then, so the winner, if Carolina moved on to the semifinals, which they haven't done either of the previous 2 years, they'd either be playing Pepperdine or Georgia Tech. And then the championship match will be on Wednesday, tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern time. So for those of you who aren't up to speed with how match play works, because it's different, you're not just playing to see who can have the lowest score. You're not just playing the course. You're playing the course and your opponent. And I mean both in terms of who the other team is and who that one other player is. So this is not how match play works. Our team's collective score for 5 players versus your team's collective score for 5 players. It's not that. It's also not we line up 5, you line up 5, and I'm playing one of your players and lowest score on the round wins a point. That ain't it either. Here is what match play is at the collegiate D1 level. I've got my 5 best guys. You've got your 5 best guys, and I am just playing one of them. So you match up each of the 5, one against another. And rather than low score, you're just trying to win each hole. So 18 holes in a round of golf, you're trying to win more of them than that one person you're matched up against. So it doesn't matter if I get a double bogey. If you get a triple bogey, I win the hole. It doesn't matter if I get a birdie. If you're able to get an eagle, you win the hole and you beat me. If you par, great job, but I got a birdie, so I win the hole. Or if we both par, it's a wash. So you don't keep score by adding strokes. You keep score by adding up the number of holes won against just that one other person for the whole round. So let's say I win 5 holes, Drake May is my opponent. Let's just pull that name out of thin air. Drake wins 4 holes, and then we tie 9 holes. That means that I won more holes, and I get 1 point for my team, and Drake gets 0 points. Now, basically, since there's 5 players, that means first team to 3 points is the winner. The good thing about the way this works is that one bad hole doesn't like screw you up for the rest of the round. One bad hole is just one bad hole. Short-term memory, goldfish, put it out of your head and you move on. So let me tell you how to understand the score. If you're looking at things as they're going and it says Drake May up 2 on Isaac Shade, that means Drake has won 2 more holes than I have. Or if you see something that says Isaac Shade down 1 to Drake May, that means I have 1 fewer wins than Drake does. If you see something, maybe the round is over and it says 4-3, what that means is let's say 4-3, Isaac Shade wins. That means I was up 4 holes on Drake with 3 holes to go. So mathematically, there was no way he could win enough to beat me. And so that's what 4-3 would mean. Or the other thing is that it could be split. If we are tied, let's say of the 18 holes, we tie 10 and each win 4, then it's completely tied and each team would get half of our 1 point. So you could see like half points doled out to the teams. So as you're tracking with stuff, if you want to watch or keep up, those are some of the numbers you'll see. I hope that makes sense. If not, reach out to me and I'll explain it to you more. Now, on the individual side of things, I already told you Carolina didn't win, but Dylan, who had been right there in the mix, finished tied for 4th, just 2 strokes back of national champion Fred Biondi of Florida. And so a great run there. Austin Greaser finished tied for 11th. He shot a 66 on Monday, including getting a hole-in-one on the 5th hole. So great job by Greaser there. And you love to see the Tar Heels just continuing to do great work. So hopefully today on Tuesday, you're keeping tabs on this. Hopefully Carolina is downing the Sun Devils. I know it's closer to home for them, so they might be a little more used to it, but Carolina, again, comes in as the number 1 seed. Friends, that's it for today's episode of Locked on Tar Heels. Always great to be together. Just so many great things going on around Carolina. Always love to get to have all those conversations. Really appreciate you tuning in to be part of it. If you would, go leave us a review. Apple Podcasts or wherever you find reviews, 5 stars. Just write out why you love the show, why you enjoy being part of this community. If you want to follow along more in depth and you don't already, you can check us out on Twitter, Locked on Heels, or me personally at Isaac Shade. If you want to have a more in-depth conversation with me, email the show, lockedontarheels@gmail.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the show, smash the like button, leave comments. We're closing in on 6,000 YouTube subscribers. Thank you so much. Friends, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel, right? You know it. We'll be right back with you tomorrow. Quick scheduling update. Pack and I are going, Coach Pat Kilby and I, usually on Wednesday's show. We will be together on Thursday's show this week. So don't freak out when you don't see or hear Pack tomorrow. I promise you, he'll be with us on Thursday. Until tomorrow, when we talk again, peace.